Hello, everyone. I think that I'm live. I think that I'm live. Good evening. We're going to wait a couple of minutes to make sure that this live broadcast is in fact working. I want to welcome everyone to join to this live session. It's going to be an interesting one, but we need to first make sure that everything is working as it should. So I'm going to give it a second and at the same time wait on my guest. Hello, be your own force of nature. How are you? On the physical level, the doctors want me to stay away from everything and just rest and learn how to walk again normally. I just had a very, very major operation on my back. But I decided that today, more than ever, there's no better time to share light and to enlighten myself, others, the universe, everything that we can touch. So I just need to know, good. Well, I've missed you too. I watch you on YouTube. I still watch your videos, and they're enlightening as always. And would love to speak to you again one of these days. I'm waiting on a guest, so I'm going to ask my wife to see if he has received this link because I am very clueless when it comes to this technology stuff. But I'm going to have, hopefully, if it's the divine timing, if it's supposed to happen, because let me tell you something about these live sessions I do. They're never planned. They as spontaneous as anything can be, because it's like a little feeling I have inside of me. It's like a burst of knowledge and thoughts and feelings and enlightenment, and all of a sudden just it's ready to come out. It's ready to be shared. And this is what it's all about. It's about sharing it. So I was thinking today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's coming up, hopefully soon. And if not, then I will have to say goodbye for just a few minutes to work on that, and then come right back. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, yes, my guest is here, Dr. Christopher Powell. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Mike. You okay?
I was just explaining that while we were waiting, that on the physical level, the doctors told me to stay away from any major activity or long period of time sittings because I had a very complicated major back surgery just the other day.
Oh,
Which I,
wow.
yeah, a revision was. It's the second one in a year. It was a complicated, it was a tough one. But I felt today more than any time the spiritual need to just go out there and just enlighten myself and hopefully others through you. And I'm going to give people just a little bit. By the way, this is the first time I'm speaking to this gentleman, and we're going to allow you to introduce yourself in just a second. But I'm going to have to tell them the background story. Usually I get a lot of emails daily about people whom wanting assistance on their spiritual path, and it's all and none of that is manufactured. It's all meant to be. These are all part of my soul journey as much as I'm part of theirs and yours, by the way. And some of them message me, and I just feel like, in your case, when I read your email, and I usually don't read emails, my wife reads them, and I just tell her, give me a time and a name, of the soul that I'm supposed to connect with, and everything is just, as natural as it should be. So today I decided to just go live because I read your emails. Like, wow, what an interesting story. I mean, it was brief, but it was impacting enough that I was like, why don't I try to have this guy come up and just introduce himself, if that's okay. And we're going to just have a conversation on the metaphysical level, because this is what I do. It's like it's not an interview. It's going to be more like sharing insights based on your experience. Because you told me in the email that you, like most people here, heard my story from that famous YouTube show, Next Level Soul, I believe. And my story was shared there. And by the way, since then till now, I've raised maybe 1,000 times over in consciousness, in my own personal consciousness. So I'm not even that person that I was back then. So consciousness pretty much is knowledge. You just continue building your knowledge about yourselves, about your soul. But something about your email told me that I have to, despite the physical pain, despite my recovery, I have to talk to him. I want to hear his story. I want everybody else in this page to hear his story, and share some insights. That's okay with you. So, first of all, so thank you so much for coming to this random last minute live show.
You're so welcome, Mike, and I appreciate you and your wife Lisa giving me this opportunity. And I rarely go on Facebook anymore, just because I use Instagram sometimes and that. But I saw your YouTube video on Next Level Soul. It did speak to me because my experience happened back in 1987 when I had my experience from your death. But I didn't quite know how to categorize it because I didn't see this tunnel or talk to, my relatives, though I did hear my ancestors calling me. So it was only years later that I understood it fit in more to a walk-in experience. And this is actually the first time I'm sharing it publicly, because it was during the pandemic I started revisiting the experience and actually writing it down. So I'm in the process of finishing this book about embracing that initiation that I had. And when I listened to your experience, I was like, oh my God, that sounds exactly how it happened to me in a sense. So I just felt called to reach out to you and maybe chat about it, because like you said, it's kind of different. And in 87, I didn't really know. Since then, I just kept it to myself. So I'm glad to be able to share it.
In other words, first of all, thank you for sharing this with us. In other words, when we say on the physical level, kept it to ourselves, it's what it seems like in our reality. But if you look at and give it the other side interpretation, that simply means it wasn't the divine timing yet back then. Sometimes people write me and they tell me in their letter exactly that. We don't know what we wrote you, but like something told us. Like we watched it. We never write people that we watch on this show, and we're like hardcore fan of this show, and we know all the stories, and we get inspired, and it speaks to us. We resonate with that, but we don't feel the need to message. We don't know what to ask, and then we simply come to find out that this is all meant to be. It's all part of the synchronicities. We have two journeys, two paths that we follow. We have the physical one, the life one, work, school, family, the normal stuff, from birth all the way until we pass. And then we have that soul journey, which is the hidden, the one that we have to put the puzzle pieces together. And they're not affected by our actions or choices like the life journey would be. Would be affected by what it's supposed to be. So I want to know, how did you know? How did you feel? Because here it is about also near-death experiences, just like dreams, we all have them and they're all fascinating, but we never share the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Often we don't even share the same dream. We can describe the general idea of a dream. You feel floating in the air, things that nothing hurts, you don't feel the touch, things are bizarre, things that situate. I mean, one second you hear and then you're back in there in reality. You can travel distances and countries and do anything in your dream. So it's the same thing on the soul level, like on the soul journey. Like these things just has happened. And now with the near death experience, just like the dreams are different, the stories are different. These are individual journeys. We all have a path. We all have a contract. We all have something we're supposed to do, and we have a way of entry, a way of living it, and then a way of exit. We all go just like we have different patterns on our fingerprints, the fingerprints patterns. We all, billions of people in the world, we all have different ones. Nobody shares the same. Isn't it amazing? Same for DNA structure. You're a doctor, you know about that stuff. And it's the same thing on the spiritual level. We all have the different purpose. We share some common phenomena when we have near-death experience, because when we come back, that's the physical memory we have of it. But it can be a whole different message, a whole different journey with millions of paths. And sometimes we have to meet people and share with them because it's part of that journey. So what you're doing now, you told me it's the first time you're about to share it in public. And this page, people watch many times. They watch the replay, of course, and it's also connected to my YouTube channel. So they'll be out for thousands of people. So it's really important because it reminds me of my interview back then with Alex Ferrari at Next Level Soul. It's all about inspiring people. What you're about to do now to others is planting so many seeds of hope and light in people's souls. And it might be just like an inspiring story on the outside or on the physical journey, but in people's soul journey, they will do shockwaves. You know what I mean? So this is how we look at things here. So please, I've spoken enough, and I really want to give you the opportunity to kind of share with us more in depth about what happened. And if I interrupt you during this story, please forgive me ahead of time. It's not out of rudeness. It's because I know that something will resonate with me as well, and I know that I'll have to somehow speak up about that because I have a feeling I know your story. So
yeah, absolutely, and it's kind of that match that
it's energy. That's energy.
So
that's how it translates.
And I just met you basically just now, and I recently, I think it was yesterday, the day before, saw that what you were going through. So I'm sending you some healing vibes on your journey, and I'd like to know more about how I can assist you if I can in any way.
Appreciate it. Just positive. What you're doing now is assisting me. So instead of being in bed right now on painkillers, I sit here, I share light, I enlighten myself, I'm happy, the pain goes away automatically. Everything just comes into place. Because I told you, it's bouncing between the two journeys. You're literally bouncing between dimensions. You say, we just met, I don't know you. Yes, that's on the physical level. Mm-hmm. That's on the body journey. Now, if you skip with me to the soul journey, you never know. We might have been just very close friends in many lifetimes ago. Because people who go through walk-ins and near-death experiences, it's not that they're special people, but these are people that are veterans, okay, of coming into this lifetime and just fixing, repairing themselves and others. They're constantly here. They're like the maintenance people of the universe. Mm-hmm. They're always here to make sure other souls are okay on their journey. So go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that what happened to me is I became a completely different person. Like my path, that fork in the road, completely divided at that moment. When I was 18, I was going through a traumatic childhood. We all have our traumas, and parents divorce and living with one and the next, and that my parents were trying to figure out their drama with each other, and I felt kind of ignored, and so I was lost as a kid back then. And it was interesting. This happened right after the harmonic convergence, and I've heard from other people like my friend Stuart Pierce, who's an angel medium, where he had this big download in 1987 during that harmonic convergence, which was this huge spiritual or galactic alignment of light. So it makes sense symbolically at that time. Maybe another soul was waiting to come assist, or I decided to choose that higher part of myself and go in a different direction. So at 18, again, I was lost. I had, at that time, I remember having a suicidal thought just before everything went down. because I was living with my dad, and he was a Marine Corps fighter pilot and very stoic, and it was hard to connect with him. And so I remember thinking, I am ready to exit out. And what's interesting, the way I thought about ending my life was smashing my head through a sliding glass door. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. But symbolically, maybe exiting or wanting to get out of this plane of existence and step into another doorway or whatnot. But I kind of snapped out of it and thought, well, what if it doesn't work? And then I'm paralyzed, or, all those thoughts. And then so I kept going with my life. And right before I had my experience, I had my first out of body experience where I left and I looked back and saw myself laying down there, and I had no clue that the first time that happened. I was like, what was this all about? So I kind of pushed that to the back of my mind, didn't really know what that was about. But I was going down to visit my uncle, who was in a coma, and he was passing away in the hospital. And he was like my father figure to me. We just got along great. We could connect and share on a deep level. And I walked into the hospital to say my goodbyes, and my family had prepared me, he won't be able to communicate with you, and he's ready to go. And so as I walked in to the hospital room, he woke up and said, "Christopher." And everybody was kind of shocked, because it's like, wait a minute, he's been in a coma. What happened? And so that gave me a moment to converse with him and connect. And it was that night where I had my near-death experience. And he said something to me like, I'm going to be okay. And looking back and now writing my story, I realized that he was telling me that I was going to be okay. Like it's almost like he knew by the look, this connection we had, that something was about to happen, and I would be almost in the position he was in within 12 hours. So I'll stop there just to see if there's any sharing, or just see.
Oh my goodness. It's too much of it, but it's also too fascinating, and it's just too much energy. It's just too much the stuff that I'm in a way addicted to be stopping you. But let me tell you a few things. First of all, the fact that you, and again, I'm not here to be the one figuring out your own story. I'm guiding you to show you how yourself is just really telling us exactly what's going on. And this is why I call myself the soul guide, I'm not just a philosopher, but the soul guide is pretty much just giving people, instead of being like an outside source to align them or decide for them, tell them what they're doing wrong or right. No, I'm just a sign, a traffic sign, a spiritual mirror in front of them, being like, you know what? See things in the metaphysical level. Some people cannot figure out their life sometimes because they never see it through the metaphysical eyes. And some of us are meant to, part of our soul journey is to see things and events that happen to us through metaphysical eyes, especially when these are events that we have zero control over. What happened to you, and the fact that you described to us how at the same time as you were going to be within 24 hours, if I remember correctly, of your also uncle talked to you, and you saw what you did, all of this together was exactly that. It was an out of body experience, which is not like, see, a lot of the time when you tell people, okay, you had an out of body experience, this almost see it like as a lesson, as an NDE. See, you needed to prove this happened to you, you went outside your body, and now you know there's life after death. Sometimes unfortunately, a lot of the conclusions are, this is when it happens. No, some people have out of body experience because literally that their soul wants out. The soul does not feel comfortable in this physical body. Therefore, it explains why you also had what they call suicidal thoughts, which is literally your soul is not happy. And how your soul is going to translate it to to real life, it will translate exactly as it is. I don't want to live anymore. You know how many people are the same way, and even me included. Through the spiritual awakening, you almost have to go through this stage to know that your soul, there's something, and it's always part of a spiritual awakening. The spiritual awakening is just like child's birth. It's just, you have contractions, it's a trauma, it's a medical emergency, but it's for a good purpose. It's a traumatic event, but it's for a rebirth. It's for something that's emerging out of chaos. And what happened to you was that. Now I'm going to tell you something about the walking. You know, when I first heard about that term, and again, walking is a new age term. In many religious and cultures, the phenomena is described differently. In some, it's even called incubation. Like your soul is there and something's waking inside of you, which explains the spiritual awakening. But here's the thing of what and again, everything I'm saying is based on my personal experience, of course, and journey. You might resonate in some areas, and this is what it's about. But you don't have to fully resonate because your journey is yours. To me, a walking soul, if in the beginning I thought there would be a complete separate entity coming in, taking over the physical body, but yet for some reason keeps the memories and keeps the feelings, and it doesn't make sense. But then I realized when they talk about another soul, it's not necessarily a separate soul, but it's another version of yourself, and I'll explain. We always feel, some of us, that we are connected. There's like an invisible umbilical cord made out of light that's connecting us. When people say connect to your higher self, what do they mean? I'm asking you, Dr. Christopher. Can I call you Chris? You go by Chris or Christopher?
Christopher, yes.
Christopher, when somebody tells you connect to your higher self, what do you think that higher self means? What's higher selves? I thought we were just right here in this world, in this level.
Right, exactly. And it's not something that's outside of you. It's just, I feel, as a doctor of chiropractic, DC, I always like the term divine connection or divine channel, and just helping people to connect to that higher version of themselves, or that higher, the superpowers that are latent within. We're all born with these abilities. So that's how I see the higher self. It's not like it's a hierarchical outside thing, just like heaven, right? A state of being. It's in here.
Exactly. That in that connection level, you agree. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to break it down to you scientifically as well, which will make a lot of sense with everyone's spiritual. One of the conclusions that I've witnessed in my experience, and note I'm saying witnessed and not believed or known or think or hope. The terminology has a lot to do with that. When we are convinced, when we talk consciousness, we have to talk not like we know or convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt, but when we consume the truth. The truth is all over us when it comes to this, because that's our real selves. One of the conclusions was that the soul is not bounded by the limitation of time. And a lot of people agree on that. You can't limit a soul. When you're a soul, when you're not in the body, not in this universe, you're not limited by time. Okay, you're everywhere all the time. So in this life, because we're limited, we have to go by the structure of past, present, future. That's what we see a lot. We say on a lot of things, past life. Like past life regression, all the things people do. But what is past life? Because we're not limited by time, our soul can exist in variety of consciousness at the same time, meaning living different lifetimes at the same time. Now, one may ask, how can you split the soul to live in so many bodies at the same time? The soul is one life. Yes, you can. Twin flame, for example, it's a split soul. Of the same, that's the origin of the same soul. Depends on how many assignments you have. So when people say past life, it's because that's the only way we can explain it in this physical body. We look past. We can't say present life. Present life is now, is what we're doing right now. But in fact, we are timeless, and we live in so many dimensions at the same time. At the same time as we live here, our consciousness is limited. because unfortunately, as much as we have faith, and a lot of people can have faith, but we follow by what we see and what we feel. If somebody's going to come after us, we're going to run. It doesn't matter how much faith we have. Like we follow, we still follow as long as we're on this body. We still follow the physical rules, and these are our main physical senses. Okay. However, so we're limited when we are in our higher selves, meaning like us living the same lifetime but in different consciousness. When it has so much more knowledge, now you can explain how you have a walking experience when the higher self, the version of you that just now departed from a world of consciousness knowledge, came here to correct your not lower self, but yourself, who's been struggling with free choices and all this stuff, and ego and whatever blocks that might stop us. So when you walk in, you're literally just connecting to your higher source. We all come from a higher source. We're all connected at the end of the day, even interconnected, all between us. After we're done with our journey, we all, if you zoom out completely, we're all interconnected. That's how we can love each other. That's how we can show kindness. That's how we can have children and feel the love of bearing children and whatnot. All these amazing things in life that we can do with other people but ourselves. It's because we are in the end interconnected. So what happened to you, what happened to me, but again, is I know I'm an old soul, but it's the higher version of me just came and switched, completely switched. It took a different side. So going back to your story, you had an amazing, so you didn't even have to have an accident, more than you just had an amazing just experience simply just happening. That's what I tell a lot of people. Like it can happen in any time, any moment, within split seconds, like if it's meant to happen to you. So
well, that was the start of it. So after I left my uncle's hospital room, I went to go visit a friend of mine who always got me in trouble in high school. And this is where the near-death experience starts. And so I was kind of lost thinking about my uncle, the first person that was close to me that was about to pass on. So I didn't really know how to process it. So he went out and he said, "Hey, well, let's get our mind off this. I'll help you get your mind off this. Let's do LSD." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not in the right state of mind. What are you, my uncle's dying with?" Long story short, he ended up giving me a huge heroic dose of LSD then. I think it was like 16 hits. And I ended up in the emergency room and my heart stopped because my adrenaline was going so much. And I always thought, well, it's just the experience I had was a hallucination, but I have it documented with family. I was in the hospital. I woke up in the emergency room with a flat line, all these things. And I guess I just didn't really want to talk about it back then because it's kind of taboo. And then I completely changed my life and went into the military, the Coast Guard, a humanitarian service organization, and to devote my life to humanitarian service. So I don't know if you want me to describe the experience that I went through, but that night, as the LSD started kicking in, I just realized that I was not in the right frame of mind or the right space, or maybe it was. It was all divine timing because how things turned out. But I ended up jumping out of his car while it was moving, running into a neighborhood, getting beat up by the police because I was like running around like a crazy man. But in my mind, I had complete clarity. I had my ancestors, I heard them calling me from the stars saying, "Turn around, you're going the wrong way." I knew if I would run this way, it was death. And if I ran this way, it was life. And through that, I chose life. And that was just the beginning of the initiation. Because after that, I ended up being strapped down. The police got me, the ambulance strapped me down to the gurney and took me to the emergency room. And they didn't know who I was at the time because I had thrown off most of my clothes. I remember taking my wallet with my ID in it, which is symbolic, throwing it away, like nonchalantly throwing my identity away. I knew I was about to change, but I didn't realize until I started writing about this. When my mom went from one hospital where her brother was dying to come see me, I was being wheeled in a gurney into the emergency room, tied, strapped down, blood all over me from being beat up and from the cops, and struggling, trying to get out of the handcuffs. And she looked at me and said, "I don't even recognize this person." Like, and I remember seeing her going, "That's my mom." But she thought I was a completely different person. Anyway, the doctors tried to slow my heart rate because apparently it was going 3 times normal rate. And they kept giving me a horse tranquilizer to calm me down. And the doctor told my mom, "We can't give him anymore because that could throw him into a coma. But his heart is beating so fast. Our fear is that, it'll stop." The next thing I remember is this faint sound of the heart monitor, the flat line. And I remember coming out of this experience, hearing that, and the nurses and the staff going crazy. And I'm like, why is everybody freaking out? I felt no pain. I felt completely okay. I was kind of like watching everything as the light came back, and I came back into, as I chose life and came back into my body. Then, as I remember, something you said kind of reminded me, as I started cementing into my body and I tried to raise my hand up to my head, I couldn't move. I was like paralyzed. But as I willed my hand up to my head to kind of feel like my head, because I had the headache started coming back, and I had blood and bandages and everything. Then the pain came back into my body, and I'm like, whoa, what did I step back into? It was incredible, because I went from this like no pain to all of a sudden this density where it was like I wanted to get out of there. And then from there, I completely changed my life. I went into the Coast Guard like a week later, and I had to retest. And I remember them saying, "You have to test again, because the first test you took and then the second test you took, we think you cheated. This is 2 different people." I remember going, "Well, you had my ID. How could it be 2 different people?" So I had to take another test to get back in. So that's another, I guess, symbolic, kind of like that you're different.
Yeah.
And then I started having a few more near out of body experiences right after that, but then they kind of disappeared, and I haven't really had any out of body experiences since then. But since then, I became a chiropractor, a yoga teacher, energy medicine. I'm always trying to find ways to deepen my abilities so that I can be of service to others.
You're living your purpose. You're truly living your main purpose. First of all, that walk-in story, and I'm glad that you had to tell it in almost like 2 parts, because these 2 parts are important. I didn't just stop you there and elaborate it, because you had what we call, before an earthquake, they have what they call pre-shocks.
There was literally an earthquake that morning. I came out of it too.
Really?
There was an earthquake in LA in that morning.
Okay. Well, see, I mean, I felt earthquake because it was like pre-shocks, the events that you had, what happened with your uncle, the barrier has been opened between the 2 dimensions. And then what happened to you, and the fact that you describe the journey to it with the LSD overdose or whatnot that could have happened there. Like I said, it has to be involving chaos or physical trauma. If it's not a car accident, then it will be something like that, or something very chaotic, because for that process to happen, it almost like it needs to be scripted in a way that when you go back, like you have to really just rediscover yourself and the change. And most of the time, when, like you said, when you help people, that means you are in the part of like you align with what you're supposed to do as a soul. It's amazing because from then on, you'll see you're only going to just ascend and ascend and ascend. And in my case, for example, I'm to a point when I'm embracing it so much. It's not more about my story more than it's about what I'm doing now with that, and how much I help people, and how many people I was able to connect with, and even yourself, and to share that story, and to see there's a people that really go through the same thing. And you're the first person that I wanted to really invite and do just a random live. I mean, I knew briefly your story, but to hear that and to feel the authenticity in your words and to feel that change and to be like, yeah, a walking soul. A walking, that's exactly what a walking soul is. We should never look at what led to it. So in this situation, and I'm not giving you tips, I'm talking on my behalf. Of what I do is like I always motivate myself to for the future and the present, but I don't always look at what led to things because it can get confusing sometimes. We all go through so much. It's almost like your body literally is being slammed from one side of the universe to the other. You don't even know who you are. Like you're going through a shock. You're in the eye of the storm, but it's not important. You know, a woman in labor is in very much pain, but it doesn't freak her out because she knows what's causing it and what's the purpose of it. Mm-hmm. So we have to look at ourselves because it's just like labor. When we are walking, it's rebirth. You are reborn as a soul. And instead of even saying it's a different soul stepped in, I look at it more as like your real you came out. Mm-hmm. Your real you emerged. You aligned. You're talking about alignment. It has to be with your soul too. You have to align with your purpose, with your higher self. It's almost like you align telescopes with stars or laser beams. You can align souls, and it all starts from within, and then it creates these crazy events because in this world, that's how it can manifest itself. You can't just wake up in the morning, okay, I'm walking. It can't. It has to have a lesson. Has to have a trauma. It has to have the near death, the near crossing. It's almost like the movie back then, if you remember Back to the Future, like for that car, for that DeLorean to go to the future, it has to go through all these lightning and explosions and stuff. And this is usually what happens when you do a change of consciousness. And that's what happened to you. And I know that you know it. And I'm very appreciative that you share that. So aside from that, now before that, were you also helping people or you were just like more, just living your life and didn't really have a lot of chance to?
I mean, I was in high school. I was kind of lost. I didn't know. The only thing I remember that I wanted to be in the future, I thought, oh, I want to be in the theater or be an actor, because at that time, that was the only way that I could express a range of emotions. I felt like I couldn't do it in front of my parents. They were too busy, or my dad didn't really know how to connect. So when I did do some plays at the time and I could express a range of emotion, I came alive. So at that time, that's all I knew. Like, oh, I want to like have this feeling where I'm actually being able to express myself and my emotions, not necessarily in front of people. It wasn't about like I want to be on stage in front of people. It wasn't that. It was more like, wow, I'm tuning into something where I feel something instead of lost. But then, after that, I just decided. I went into the Coast Guard search and rescue. I've been an EMT, CPR instructor, volunteer firefighter, and I always kind of in the medical side. But I realized I wanted to do something deeper on it, not just kind of Band-Aid care, which is nothing wrong with that, but emergency care. I wanted to do something that was more holistic, and so then that's why I chose chiropractic, because it's really aligning the physical with the spiritual. That was the original intention.
Yeah, so that was my question. I wanted to ask you. So when you attend your patients, so do you attend them first as on the soul? Because it doesn't contradict, but at the same time, it's like you're here to deal with a very physical thing. And do you first address it with them on a soul level and then figure out the physical, or is it first, physical, and then I'll help your soul deal with that too?
I've always been more on the energetic side. Even before school, I was kind of into, after the experience, like Qigong and metaphysical. I remember my mom giving me a book in the 80s called Love, Medicine, and Miracles by Dr. Bernie Siegel, which is the psychoneuroimmunology. So I was always fascinated with that realm. But for me, the technique that I vibrate with and use is more on the yoga side of chiropractic. I say it's the yoga of chiropractic because I start with the the energy and the symptom first, like the mental and the belief, because that's kind of like the blueprint, and to help people cherish the pain that they're going through, to pay attention to it. Because I just think pain means pay attention inwardly now, to cherish that, to find out what the medicine and the wisdom is. So yeah, I'd like to start with that energetic kind of soul level, holistic, because if I just address the physical aspect, it seems to come back unless you have to take all these into account. So that's why I work with people. Like, where is it in the body? What's the symptom trying to say? What is the belief? What is the gift that's returning? Like, instead of the pain, instead of saying, oh, my bad shoulder, well, this is a blessing returning. What is the blessing returning in the burden that you may be shouldering?
Of course, and everything it has to go spiritually outwards. I wanted to ask you also, and they don't really ask that much when people even share stories. And like I said, this is not an interview, so kind of feel more free to just. So, in my case, helping people has been definitely the role. If you were to have a profession in the real life, or a cause or something you need to be doing on the spiritual level with the collective, definitely it's to help people. I mean, especially when we're old souls, that's the most natural thing we can do. But also we have to remember that it's our journey as well to ascend and to keep evolve as souls, and to keep face trials. For example, a lot of people, and I posted something on my Facebook, I think in a short video, because of course a lot of people send their amazing vibes my way, and good wishes, and I appreciate all of them. And then some would ask, it's like, well, what if it's something here that's lacking? What if something here that's missing? What if something here that you did? And I tell people, I said, I'm to a point when I'm so aware of my journey. So when you know your journey, it's like you know your house. Somebody can turn off all the lights and you'll be able to walk in your house and know every corner. You're familiar with that. You're comfortable with that. You're living it. Same for the soul journey. So to me, I see those things in life, especially when it's just major physical challenges that, they're nothing but physical. So you have back surgery, so you're out of commission, so you're going to heal. Like, there's not much you can do, as like to heal from surgery. It's just like it's a setback physically, but it happens. And to me, I see those things as trials. We still, and the higher, and to me, the higher you get in spirituality, obviously, the higher physical trials you'll have to endure in order to pass that. You're not going to give somebody who's a genius in high school like a third grade test.
Mm-hmm.
I expect any less than A+. So, I mean, it's the same thing when it comes to that. And I just see myself always growing. Like, I'm always taking these events in my life as opportunities to grow. See, us as walking souls, we can never be stuck. Like, we were never stuck in place before. Like, you wanted to do this and this and this, and you were fighting. I was a correctional officer. I was a police officer. I was a soldier. I was a hospital worker. I mean, I did everything that had to do with the community. That at the time I was like, okay, this is just what I do. But no, I mean, I was able to see in the world from all angles, like I'm sure you have as well, and to almost be able to interact with all layers of society. Really, I mean, just like you are, I'm sure as well. Like, you see people from everywhere, and it's amazing because this is really how we live our task, our spiritual task. I give my physical, I'll tell you and the viewers, I give my physical life personally the importance of existence and dignity. Nothing more, nothing less. And when you ask me to be specific, what's existent? Anything. My life, my income, my health, anything that has to do with living, it's existence, and that's it. That's where it ends, because I need all my energy, I need all my consciousness, I need all my knowledge to go to what's lasting forever, to go to my forever journey, to go to what I'm meant to do. So this is personally me. So I'm always looking for my divine timing to grow, and I also jump on the opportunities when they arise. And I wanted to ask you, so when you help people, you teach people, we do that and it's amazing. But when it comes to yourself, where do you see your journey going? What do you feel? Let's just put it that way, your journey going.
Yeah, I mean, right now, especially with these challenging times we're in, I feel that it's kind of pushing us to reconnect in a deeper way, with the split with left and right and masculine and feminine and Republican, Democrat, whatever. It's like testing us.
You said that.
How can we come together in a deeper way and embrace each other instead of arguing and saying, this is right or that's wrong? So that's just the challenge that we're in. How can we learn to love and embrace and come back together and not let fear drive a wedge and drive us apart and descend?
And I'll tell you, just like our personal stories, the one you shared with me, with us tonight, the one I shared on Next Level Soul, the traumas, just like the personal traumas that lead into personal ascension and personal awakening, the same thing happens to the collective, as a collective and as a world. And that's, in other words, is also called the global spiritual awakening. And souls who are here as walk-ins are here also as walk-ins because they are in a generation where they're going to be needed for things that are about to unfold.
Yeah, I feel like there's this big for me because, I used to live in Santa Fe during COVID, and the pandemic shifted my reality there, and I was moved out of New Mexico, even though I'm heading back. I have property there and would love to create a sanctuary again like I had before. But now, I'm just in service, surrendering. I think it's the challenging part, is surrendering to how I can be more of service. And it may not look the way I think or the way I was trained. So I just continue to stay open and connect with that higher ability and say, how can I be of service? And sometimes my ego jumps in and goes, well, I'm not seeing 400 people a day or whatever. And then I realize, look, the person in front of you, like my mom, sometimes I'm a caregiver too. So that can be the challenge. And the biggest challenge is for me is just to be like, just be with one person and give it your best. And I'm still learning that. I mean, I'm human. But I hope I can learn pretty quickly.
You said it perfectly. It's surrendering. Okay. So it's following the soul path is surrendering to what's, like you said, to when things are coming, to the divine timing, but it's also reacting. See, here's the thing we have to understand. It's a matter of surrendering, having the divine patience, but also our journey is being shaped on how we react to some things that we're not in control over. I'm not saying go hurt somebody, they react to you, then you react back to them. You caused it. It has nothing to do with your soul journey. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when events unfold, something happened, and there's everyday things happening as we speak, major things happen in people's life shifting events, both in the world and in individual. I mean, if you look at it, just like I said, they go parallel. And even the world has to go through an alignment at one point. And the alignment will come with chaos. Chaos is not always a negative thing. People think that chaos, because they see death, quote unquote, as the end. So if you said everybody will die, so it's a bad thing. It's chaos. People will suffer, even the worst of suffering is temporary. No suffering lasts forever. We can all agree on that. But even that, people will be feared because it's like, it's the way you see things. So chaos to me, it's the contractions before birth. Once you understand why it's coming, where it's heading, you take it differently. If a woman had labor pains and she wasn't pregnant, do you agree with me, doctor, that she would freak out?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's going on? She would go and see every specialist on the planet.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, once you have the awareness of what's happening to you, what are you going through? What is the world going through? And the world is going through, like you said, alignment. So we have to be patient, and we also have to surrender, like you said, which is the same thing as being patient. Is being patient willingly. I'm surrendering, okay? Whenever it's coming, it's coming. Whatever coming is coming. But also reaction. Now, your mom said something to you. How do you react? How do you react to situations? And it's not always even making the right choice. It's making the right choice that's also going to affect everybody. You know, sometimes with ego, we make the right choice. Okay, it's the right choice, but it's still in the back of the head, it's the right choice for us. It could be even more perfect of a choice. So it's the small little things that we can grow and even reach out to different destinations. It's always like your soul was given a chance to come here and correct not only yourself, because it's done or happening, but the world. And we are before major events. And I'm not saying this to, I'm not a prophet. I'm not saying this to scare, intimidate people. A lot of people that follow this page feel it themselves. Everybody I talk to that message me, you know what you said about we feel the same thing. Yeah, I wrote about it in my book too. It's the bells and whistles. You hear them. It's like major footsteps that you hear coming. I mean, and if you open it, and I don't consume, and I tell people I don't consume the energies from the news, but I'll watch just enough to know that spiritual things are aligning with what's going on. And we're not, like you said, we're not in good shape as a world. Since the pandemic and everything, it's like something happened. Something's not right, and we feel it. Something's not aligned. And it's not about good or right, or good or wrong, because there is no wrong or right. Like I said, it's only right. Even the chaos, it's only for a right purpose. Nothing in that story called life and souls, and nothing in that has either a bad beginning or bad middle, bad ending. It's really not about that. It's about to grow and learn, and through this baptism of fire called earth, called physical consciousness, to learn to live in harmony between the two, body and soul, to realize, to have the consciousness, and to correct ourselves and others. And life is temporary. It's like a Ferris wheel. We're up here, we go down there, we come right back here. It's the same thing. But every time you come with more knowledge, with more consciousness. So based on that, like I wanted to say, a lot of people must know that if they feel like what you described perfectly, what's going on in the world, and it's almost like we don't know, like we're expecting something. Like we know we are kind of like on edge. This is the time to increase in spirituality and helping people, in increasing light, not because something's bad is coming, but because we'll have the perfect tools, we'll have the knowledge, we'll have the faith, we'll have the energies to face with some things that might seem a little out of the ordinary, let's put it that way, when they happen. And people talk about different things. Think about a nuclear, and it's very possible. Nuclear war. I mean, everything that we know, the whole world as we know it, from basic communication to everything's going to go. Some people will be like, how do we live our lives without all that stuff we got used to? What do we do? What is radiation? Can we not get outside? I mean, hey, it happened in the world. I mean, it happened 60 some years ago. It's not that uncommon. And people need to understand the world can manifest itself and align itself via chaos. And if you want to sustain it, if you want to not lose your mind, if you want to have an understanding of it, know now, wake up now, help one another now, know that it's all very fragile. But I only brought it up because you also spoke about it, and it's reaffirming me on the things that I've been feeling. And I'm almost like on standby. I'm trying to just, what's the word? I'm bracing up for something. Do you know that's the feeling I'm having spiritually? Like,
yeah, I'm feeling it too. I think sensitive. We're all tuning forks, resonating in certain ways. And I've always known that when I feel stuff in my spine, I'm like, oh, that's my fault zone, or my not a fault like bad, but fault zone, where I feel stuff before it. It's almost like the pressure wave that comes before, that's where I usually feel it in my spine.
Yes, yeah.
I became a chiropractor. So we're sensitive. You're feeling that all the structures, the main structure of our body is changing, and which means that the structures of reality and the world are changing as well. So how do we find that calm in the chaos?
Yeah, we find it because our soul knows everything from the beginning. I mean, our soul is the soul, knows its lifespan from before the womb, the time in the womb, birth, childhood, adulthood, passing, and after. It knows. It knows how we don't know. We have to discover because we're blindfolded in this physical body. That's the whole point, is to reacting, not just acting, reacting. There's so much we can do as far as people, so many choices we can make. But when it comes to our soul journey, it's how we react. When it comes to this, like I said, spiritual awakening, it's because our soul knows everything. So we know what's coming. We don't know, like we can't put it into a picture right now. I mean, everybody can see it in different, it's not, we're not meant to see the future, okay, in this physical, but we can sense. We can say that, past life we've lived. It's almost like a big deja vu. It's a deja vu, something that hasn't happened yet, if it makes sense. When you have inner self, this is one of the place where deja vus come from, when you feel past life, that's from the inner self. It goes almost like, if you were to compare it to past, present, future, it'll be past. Yourself now is the present, the higher self, it's almost like the future. So it's like events that haven't unfolded yet, but they're about to happen, because like I said in the beginning of this conversation, the soul knows no time boundary. Therefore, it can travel between time while our body's just reacting to it.
Exactly.
So that's why we have that feeling of anticipation, that the body reacts even before the events are unfolded. And that's also in the metaphysical world, that's a clairvoyant qualities, that you just feel things before they happen. You sense them on the soul level. And if somebody's meant to do that, I guess they're meant to do that and help other people with that gift. We all come with our toolbox, with our spiritual toolbox of how we can help people. Everybody in their own style, everybody with their own way, and that's what's beautiful. If people were to do what they're spiritually meant to do, and not just where money takes them or anything else, the world would be a better place. When people talk about make the world a better place and everything, is first connect to your soul, know how much better you can treat people from the inside out. It will reflect others. And some generation, it used to be like that, apparently, that people were way more, tolerating, and there'll be less wars and stuff. And it's all, and sometimes we as a collective make bad choices. All we can do is really just try to help who we're meant to help in our circle, because everybody that comes into your clinic are people that on the soul level are meant to go there. I'm a big believer in the synchronicities. I don't believe in any coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. Mm-hmm. Nothing. The only thing that can be coincidence will be a bad choice that you make. You're supposed to make a good one, you make a bad one. You surprise even yourself. You surprise everybody involved in your soul contract. You violated your contract with your free choice, the freedom of choice. That usually happens in a life journey, but in the soul journey, you're just supposed to react. And like I said, to know that everybody that comes into your place is meant to do it. Sometimes I get to make appointments and I don't talk to people, I do sessions, something happens, the internet. I tell people, hey, it's going to be better and it's divine timing. This is practicing true patience towards ourselves. Even people like yourself that are full of light, they're enlightened. I mean, you can see it. And I'm sure everybody will agree with me who's watching. You're enlightened. But even you can grow in this body even more. Just to practice the things that are the hardest to do. That's what I tell people. Like, how can I grow even more? Practice the things that are hardest to do spiritually. Practice divine patience. Practice acceptance. Practice surrender, like you said. Practice free love. Practice even being gentle and kind to those who are not deserving your kindness and gentleness. Very easy to just react accordingly, It's a natural reaction. But rise above your own self. Connect to your higher self. That's what I usually tell people. So with that optimistic finish, I want you to just maybe take a couple of minutes to give us, the viewers. And first of all, I'd like to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, on my behalf of myself and my wife Lisa, for coming in. It's meant to happen. I've had an amazing time where my excruciating pain could have been put aside for, I don't even know how long we've been talking for, but I want you to tell and enlighten others, because this page is all about other souls and how we can touch them. And if we touch one soul out of whoever viewing this, then we've done our part, and it's a major part. and I want you to tell us just what you learned from your experience, and what do people need to do in order to experience what you're experiencing, because that's what they ask me all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we teach what we need to learn, right? So for me, it's really every person that I come in contact with, try to see through their eyes. Because, all the spiritual masters say there is no other. We're all one on that spiritual realm. And, all the life reviews show us that how we hurt or help another person comes back to us, because it's just ourselves, in different perspectives. And since I teach that, I learn that the hard way every day. Somebody cuts me off in traffic, I go, oh, and then I'm like, okay, I love this person, don't know what happened. So I guess just to see, walk a mile in someone else's shoes, just when somebody comes at you and you want to react, try to say, wow, this is me giving me some feedback, a biofeedback on how to make better choices. So how can I do that? And every time you make a mistake, just know that, okay, I get another chance. I'm going to get another chance. How can I be a better person? How can I help more? How can I love more? How can I embrace more? How can I feel more? How can I uplift more? And that's my mantra every day. And, I stumble and fall and gets my face slammed against the wall and go, oh, okay, how can I do it again? How can I be better? So
Yeah. And if I can add to that, something I do before I let you all go, is that also learn to, even if somebody, like you said, cuts you through traffic, and we have to learn to first forgive ourselves for even the possibility of trying to get maybe agitated. We have to learn to do pretty much everything with ourselves in an unconditional way in order for it to be channeled out to other people.
so true.
It's like, you can never learn true love before you truly love yourself. You can never learn true patience before you truly are patient with yourself. Even acceptance, until you know how to accept yourselves. So everything that you want to see on the outside, first see within yourself. And when you do, and everything you do in life, if you want to know that you connect to your souls, even if you make mistakes, because as people, our souls can, not our souls, it's our bodies make the mistakes and our souls follow. It's like bad company for the soul, because the soul is not having the center stage, unfortunately, unless we connect to it. But what I'm trying to say is that everything you do in life, even the mistakes, do it unconditionally. Very, very importantly, when you give something condition in life, you create a doubt, a hole in faith, a hole in the metaphysical world that you pray you have for yourself, that you know you have for yourself. So everything you do unconditionally. And by doing so, you're always going to be connected to your soul. Always. And most of the time, you do positive things unconditionally. You'll have unconditional loyalty, unconditional love, unconditional friendship. I don't know people who have unconditional evil, because even evil can be bribed to stop. It doesn't come from the soul to do evil, so it's conditional. Evil is done for egoistic need of other people. But unconditional things are things that connect us to our souls, if it makes sense. It's the unconditional bond. Thank you so much, Dr.
Mike,
for being with us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
So
if you enjoyed it, you can watch it again. If you joined later, you can watch it again from the beginning. We'll try to have just as special guest as Dr. Christopher Powell at the next time, so we can share light with others. And this is what it's all about. It's raw. It's not planned. I got the gentleman on the camera. This is the first time we met, right? We didn't pre-plan none of that. And it was just beautiful. It's like I've talked to somebody I've known for ages. a lot of common terminology, common faith, common feelings. And this is what it's all about. It's about resonating, aligning, and everybody with their own journey. All you have to take from us is a little spices, but this is your meal, your recipe, your way. And this is what I tell people. This is about sharing light. We share light. We don't decide, turn on or off somebody else's light. We share ours with others. And this is what I wanted to tell everybody. And thank you again for your well wishes and your prayers for my upcoming recovery. I know that through this page and through these insights and through these wonderful people, nothing will stop me on the way to a very, very speedy recovery. So I thank you all for your energies. And again, Dr. Christopher Powell, thank you so much for being with us. Until the next time, be blessed and have a wonderful day of light.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Enough service.